My agency did 23K in revenue last month, and I wanted to make this video just to give you an indication of what that actually looks like from a profit and loss perspective. I think a lot of people in this space talk about how much their agency is doing from a revenue perspective, and that doesn't really mean anything if you're not taking any money home. And I just want to give you an insight into what my books look like, and so you can kind of get a gauge as to what you can expect when running your own agency, and kind of realizing that when you hear these big numbers, like in full transparency, I understand there's people who are doing much bigger than what I'm doing. But when you hear numbers like, 10K a month, 23K a month, or 50K a month, you also just have to take that with a grain of salt, because that's not exactly profit. Odds are there's subcontractor fees, there's subscription fees, there's all sorts of stuff that come out of the top end that you do have to pay for, not to mention tax. So let's go into my books. I'll quickly show you what it actually looks like from my agency's perspective. Keen to hear ways if you have some tips and tricks on how to maybe reduce my expenses, but this is what I'm looking at currently. Let's jump in. Right here is a blank template that you're going to take a look at. I'm going to quickly open up the one that I used for the previous month, and I'll actually give you guys this template to use. Honestly, there's a lot of accounting software out there that you can use that would be a lot better than this one. But if you're on a budget and you don't really want to spend a whole lot of money on some accounting software, feel free to use this one here. So as you can see here, total revenue, I'll break it down kind of to give a better explanation as to what all this actually means. But as you can see here, total revenue was 22,629, so roughly 23K. Now, what I planned was 17, so we did a lot better. But as you can see here, my expenses were very high, right? We had about 9.8K in expenses for this month, which is quite high. Now you're probably thinking, oh, okay, fantastic, but you made like a profit of $11,000, right? Or $12,000 in this case. Yes, that is the gross profit, but you have to keep in mind that deductions come after that as well, right? So that's gross. This is net, and I might have just misnamed this, but we're at 56% net margins, which is great, but that's after tax, right? So if you scroll down a little bit here in my form here, in New Zealand we pay a thing called ACC, so 1.8% of everything that I earn goes to ACC. Income tax, I'm currently on one of the lower brackets, and I'm a sole trader, so my agency is not registered as a business right now. So I pay roughly 23.1% tax. So right there, I've had to pay $5,227 straight off of this top line. Boom, gone. I have my Henry fee, which is what I use for my invoicing. Then we have KiwiSaver, which is like a Roth IRA, retirement fund, 5%. And then I actually pay myself 10% here as well, so another 2K goes to me directly. The rest stays in the business. So as you can see here, obviously disregard this 10%, but roughly 7.4K just gets taken off of that top line profit, right? And then obviously the reason it says 3.3 is because 10% is going to myself. But that's a lot, right? And when you hear people talk about things like, oh my God, we just did, 50K in total revenue, you have to keep in mind that's not profit. And it doesn't really mean anything if you have bad profit margins. I would much rather do 20K in profit, and I'll quickly show you something as well. I'd much rather do 20K in revenue if I had an 80% profit margin than doing 50K in revenue if I had a 10% profit margin. So it's just keeping these things in mind. Sometimes the guy who's actually performing a bit smaller in terms of total revenue is actually doing better from a business perspective because he's not blowing out his budgets or shooting money where it shouldn't go and all that good stuff. Now I'll give you a run through on how to use this spreadsheet in a second, but I'll quickly show you something as well, right? So as you can see here, right, we actually have our projected loss, profit and loss, what I thought I was going to make, and then what we actually made, which just comes down here. And you can see on like a monthly basis, like we're still doing well, 4K last month in actual profit after tax, 3.3K in actual profit after tax, and you should be paying tax as you get bigger with your agency. If you're just starting out, you have 1 or 2 clients, don't really worry about it. No one's going to go after you. But as you get bigger and as you start doing this properly, you do want to start paying. And you can kind of see exactly what we're looking at in terms of total profit and total loss here as well. So it's important to keep that in mind. Now, I'm going to give you this spreadsheet here to use. So you can just get it in the link in the description. But I'm going to quickly show you how to use it because I found this incredibly useful. It's given me a lot of It's lifted a lot of nervousness, I think, a lot of the times with my business when I don't know how much I'm going to have coming in from the previous month or in the month coming up, if I'm going to be able to pay my bills or anything like that. So this is how I use this spreadsheet. I'll see if I can zoom in a little bit here for you guys as well. As you can see here, this is what I'm planning to spend in the given month, right? So my planned fixed, which is things that are going to stay the same each month. So roughly, I pay about $1,100 in subscription fees every month. I have $41 in hosting fees. I pay $4,000 in subcontractor fees for my team. That I set this every single month, but I expect that to kind of come in. I have a few other little training and education expenses that pop up and all that stuff. But I know roughly that I'm going to have to pay 600 or 6,000, 6.3K this coming month. I know I'm going to have to pay that for this month. So I know at the very least I need to make that much money. I can also see my clients here as well, where my money is going to be coming in from. So I can see planned before tax, right? So I can see all that and I know exactly where my clients are going to be paying my money. So I know I'm going to pull in roughly 17.5. So I'm like, oh, okay, fantastic. I know net profit after all deductions, I'm probably going to pull in 3.8. I can breathe. I'm not nervous unless something crazy happens, like 2 of my clients leave me, which they never do because I'm amazing. I'm safe, right? Now what this spreadsheet does is it pulls this information here in from this sheet here. So what I do is I just put in transactions every single week. At the end of each week, I load in every single one of my expenses and every bit of my income from my bank statements or the cards that I'm using, and I put them in here. And what this does is it pulls this information here into that sheet I just showed you. I'll quickly show you, right? So if I go 2nd 09, so that's how we format it in New Zealand with the 2nd of September, and I say $50, and we'll call it subscriptions, excuse my spelling, and we'll label it subscription fees, right? Watch this. I pull it, it's going to be, I'll make sure it's not a dollar sign. You can't have it as a dollar sign. It has to be just a number. It'll pull that $50 into here. Boom, see? Subscription fees, $50, and it pulls it in. This is how I get a really good look over my business, and I keep my numbers in check. I know exactly what my profit is. I know how much I'm making. But I want to make this video really just to give you an indication that it's not all crazy high numbers that people say it is. You have to keep in mind with your profit. You're running a business. In the agency space, it's really easy for us to get confused and think that we're just like entrepreneurs and hustlers, but we are running a business. And there's profit and there's loss. And it's important to understand what actual profit looks like. Awesome, guys, I hope you found that video useful. Any questions, let me know. Once again, that spreadsheet is in the description down below. I make these videos really just to kind of document my journey and then give any tips and tricks on what I'm doing with my agency. You guys have been awesome, super supportive. All the comments you guys chuck my way, it really does mean a lot to me because this agency space can get really lonely. You're working alone a lot of the times, and it just means a lot to have you guys there.